Pearson Rabbit's story begins with Dr. Stephanie Pearson, a passionate OB/GYN at the height of her career. But when a shoulder injury struck during a precipitous delivery, her dreams were shattered, leaving her unable to practice medicine. Determined to make a difference, Stephanie became an advocate for her peers, guiding them through the complex disability process. Alongside insurance expert Scott Ravitz, Stephanie founded Pearson Ravitz, a company determined to approach insurance differently. Together, they set their mission to educate and empower physicians to protect their most valuable asset, their income, and the most important people in their life, their family.
Today, Pearson Ravitz serves the medical community in all 50 states. At Pearson Ravitz, they understand the unique concerns of physicians. Physician-founded and physician-focused, Pearson Ravitz builds human connections before they create quotes. Life can change in an instant. It's hard to imagine that a sudden illness or injury could leave you and your family in a devastating financial situation. But with a little planning and guidance, you can prepare for every possibility. Visit PearsonRavitz.com today to schedule your consultation with the Pearson Ravitz advisor.
Finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo, no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
We're back in sort of a studio. Well, it's a room in our house, as you can see from the boxes and all the chairs we normally sit on
are in a state of disrepair since we cannot find the posts for our...
No, we can find the post. We can't find the base that goes under the chair that then goes into the post. So
if you're watching this podcast instead of listening, you'll see the new studio room that is a shambles. But anyway, who cares? We're here. I wanted to do the show outside on the patio. Tim declined, saying it was too much work to put it all together.
Well, I just set all this up and then I have to take it down and then we have to go set it up again. It doesn't seem reasonable.
We are still doing a show and we're glad you're here. Welcome back, everybody.
Hello, Lariat. Thank you for joining us and confirming that Facebook indeed works because there was some technical problems.
Let's see. We have a show to enlighten you and entertain you. And Tim has some funny news stories of the week. Of course, we have updates on our podcast coming out tomorrow, our Truth Bomb from today. And I'm announcing the winner of the contest from last week.
Yes. So are we going to get right into the zany and insane news in the kind of sort of medical world?
Absolutely.
All right, so here we go. We're going to add this to the stage. We're going to hit this. Wow, look at this. Wow. Seattle Mariners. What do the Seattle Mariners have to do with medicine? Well, it's quite an interesting story. So World Series starts in a couple days, so I thought a baseball story would be appropriate. Did you know that the Seattle Mariners have the same number of playoff appearances in their 47-year history, 5, as ruptured testicles suffered by their players while playing baseball? In 1980, Mariners pitcher Mike Parrott took a comebacker off of the bat of Minnesota shortstop Roy Smalley directly in his junk.
It says that in the article.
Not to be outdone, in 1997, another Seattle pitcher, Joseus Manzanillo, stopped a Manny Ramirez liner with his cup. It runneth over. Ramirez claimed both of Manzanillo's marbles with one. He blew up both of Manzanillo's balls with one swing of the bat.
I did not know that happened that frequently in baseball.
Well, it doesn't. It only happens to the Mariners that frequently.
Maybe they have either large balls or bad equipment.
Yes, or both.
Wow. Well,
by then it seems that either there was a bounty on Mariners players' giblets or they were inviting it, because in 2009, third baseman Adrian Beltre reportedly was not wearing a cup when Alex Ramirez of the White Sox took a crack at him. Beltre must have pivoted just right to deflect the ball off just one of his nuts, but left unhelmeted. That was bad enough. Beltre was a stud, though, and stayed in the game with an exploded testicle.
no way.
Yes.
That's almost as studly as when you worked with your ruptured appendix.
Correct. And finally, if it weren't evident enough that this were some kind of weird contest among Mariners players, in 2019, outfielder Mitch Haniger took matters into his own hands and fouled a pitch, hitting himself. This is the best part of the article, in the lower Pacific Northwest.
That's written really well. That's pretty funny.
Yes.
So I want our viewers who are able to comment to let us know what the craziest thing you've worked with as far as an injury is.
Like I have never heard of anyone. I mean, this last guy in 2019 was a gigantic story, actually, because he was out for, I think, the rest of the season, and apparently out of the bedroom for the rest of the season as well. But that, I digress. So at any rate,
well, I would comment on being able to perform in the bedroom with only one testicle, but I will leave it at that. Shall we say?
So will I.
So I want to know if anybody's got any crazy stories where they worked while injured. Tim worked with the ruptured appendix, and all I have to say is he ruined the weekend for us.
No, I worked with the ruptured appendix,
because
and
you were supposed to be on the road trip with me and the kids on the way to Canada while your niece got married and the kids were in the wedding. Instead, you decided to explode your appendix at work, and ended up in the hospital.
Okay, do you remember we were working together that day, and I walked into your office and I said, the pain is right over my right lower quadrant. I wonder if this is my appendix. And you said, you're just a big baby. Keep working.
It was a man.
Until it exploded.
It was man cramps.
In the middle of the night. And then I got up in the middle of the night and I could touch my abdomen and barely move it, and it was excruciatingly painful. And I said to May, I think it's just gas. And she said, you're an idiot. Go to the hospital.
And
then I drove
himself
to the hospital
because we didn't want to. You don't just never wake up sleeping babies.
No. So I was like, the only thing between me and morphine is how quickly I can get to the hospital. I'll deal with 20 minutes of discomfort rather than waking kids up.
Anyway. So yeah,
and then what happened to you?
He ended up in the hospital for 5 days.
Yeah, because I needed all these antibiotics.
Peritoneal lavage. Well, what happened to me was then I had to go to Canada with the kids by myself, and on the way up, got in a fender bender, and it turned into a scene that we won't get into. But basically, I called him for help, and he was literally high as a kite, unable to help.
They gave me a machine where if you pushed a button, it gave you morphine. I'm like, it's time for another beer. Click.
Yeah.
It was amazing until you actually tried to do anything. You tried to. So I finally was feeling good enough to get up and get out of bed. And then I was like, this is awful. Like, get me out of here. Get this away from me. This is bad.
And so to complete the story, then I'll tell what happened to me was I had the two kids in the vehicle. I think they were like 3 and maybe 4 and 5-ish. Back in the day when you had the TV plugged into your lighter and they were back there watching, and I had to pull over and a state trooper stopped because I shouldn't have been on the side of the I-5 in Washington, but I was pulling chunks of fender and grill off in order to drive. And the hood of the vehicle was kind of flopping uncontrollably. So he's like, oh, we could tie it down with something if you have a cord or a rope. And I'm like, yeah, I happen to have a cord. It's to plug in the TV. That's entertaining my toddlers, but I guess we could use it. So I go in there to get it out and disconnect it from the television. And much to my dismay, the children were not watching the
television.
TV.
Just wait. It's better from my perspective. So I'm laying in bed in a blissful state of partial awareness, morphine coursing through my brains and hitting every synapse in my brain. And I hear the car door open and like the beep, 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 beep of the car. And then I just hear this, you're dead, you're dead, you're dead. And then the kids are screaming with laughter because they were drinking out of sippy cups some kind of unbelievably sticky juice and spitting it out of their mouths to the roof of the car, screaming, "We're whales!
Yes.
We're whales!"
Decided to cosplay whales, and it was all over the ceiling, and I was pissed off to say the least. But I had to ignore that because I had to tie the hood of the Jeep down with to the grill with a cord. Anyway, then we got to the border, and then it was like a 2-hour wait in line, and our daughter decided she had to pee, and anyway, it was a nightmare. And you were having fun. You were no help. That was the story.
I was in the hospital. I almost died. If it was 100 years earlier, I would have been dead.
I know.
I was only 38 years old.
So Lariat says that she worked with shingles at work, which is horrible. I'm just going to say that some shingles is mild and people barely have any. It seems to be that the people that have the biggest breakouts hardly have any symptoms. And then some people who have a few little spots that almost all look like spider bites would come in with the worst nerve pain. That's the most bizarre upside down thing. But I noticed that over my career.
It's nerve pain.
No, what I mean
Sucks.
was the size of the breakout of sores on your skin does not correlate with the pain. And so I'm just saying, I don't know what Lariat had, but that's horrible to work with that for sure.
All right. Let's get to
what's
the
up next.
Next story. Adding to the stage. A woman, you can't really see this because of our BS Free MD logo. A woman sues Disney for $50,000 after painful wedgie on water slide.
Here.
I will read the article. So, yeah.
There you go. Painful wedgie. You know, I'm bopping things around and people still can't read it.
Correct. So I shall
a painful wedgie on a water slide.
A woman and her husband
Have you ever had a painful wedgie on a water slide?
No. A woman and her husband are suing Disney for injuries sustained while riding down a 5-story water slide at Typhoon Lagoon.
Oh, we've been.
One of 2 water parks in Walt Disney World. The slide, Humunga Kawabunga, is the fastest and steepest water slide at the park. It features a near vertical 214-foot drop that sends guests careening down the inside of a dark mountain before emerging into a long canal of water meant to slow them down. Yes, and if it's a mountain in Florida, you know they made it artificially because there's no mountains in Florida. According to the lawsuit, which the couple filed on Wednesday in Orange County, the slide caused Emma McGinnis to suffer an injurious wedgie during a visit to the park in 2019 to celebrate her 30th birthday. The slide and the flume of standing water meant to slow riders down, the suit alleges, forced McGinnis one-piece bathing suit inside her body. She experienced immediate and severe pain internally, and as she stood up, blood began rushing from between her legs.
Oh.
Immediately after the incident, McGinnis was forced to seek emergency medical care and a gynecologist. She suffered severe and permanent bodily injury, the suit adds. McGinnis and her husband were seeking $50,000 in damages for what it calls Disney's negligence. Riders of Typhoon Lagoon's Humunga Kawabunga, which is considered a speed slide, are told at the start of the slide that they must keep their legs crossed at the ankles. Doing so can be difficult, but very important, according to Thomas J. Griffiths. Okay, now listen to this.
Who is he?
He's a veteran expert on water safety and drowning prevention and the owner of Aquatic Safety Research Group. So they literally have He has been an expert witness in water sliding lawsuits. They actually make these people that do this. When you're plunging at a high rate of speed into the water, anything can go wrong, he added, though he cited other examples of vaginal tears, severe wedgies, and blunt force trauma in cases where he's served as an expert witness. He maintains that it's not a common occurrence. Griffiths compares the experience of splashing into the runoff of a speed slide or being blasted with a fire hose.
Oh my gosh.
Just shooting at your body.
So what are they going to...
That's how fast you're coming down. Whenever anyone goes down one of these slides, he added, they're exposing themselves to a great force.
Well, first off, I think this is more common occurrence. Maybe not that severely that people think, because I've seen multiple patients over the years come in with let's just say retained impacted feminine hygiene products from going down water slides, not as powerful as cowabunga.
No, humunga cowabunga.
Things get pushed up from force of water up there. But there's a story that's totally, I remember this, true growing up. My mom would always enforce in me when we were water skiing, I think you know this story, to always, when we were skiing, always let go of the rope if we wiped out, and not to hang on to it, which is like a reflex, I guess, from some people, because you get dragged underwater. And her friend that she grew up with hung on to the rope and had a similar experience requiring a hysterectomy because of so much force. So it happens. But here's what I'm thinking. So what are they going to do to remedy this? Because how do you force people to keep their legs crossed? Are they going to zip tie your ankles together?
So what happened is she hit a bump or something. She became airborne. So she opened her legs to try to stabilize herself.
Well, that's what I mean.
And then she hit the power jet fire hose at the bottom. So if that's slowing you down.
If you're unable to keep your legs crossed, they're going to have to tie them together and force you to keep them.
Now, if I was, you guys can vote if I should go back to law school.
Yes, he should.
If I was Disney's attorneys, I would come out and I'd say, yes, I know Disney and the mouse has sold their soul to Satan, but other than that, they're not culpable for this. And the reason is, it's a frickin' water slide that's 214 feet high with a giant mega satanic douche nozzle at the bottom. And you're wearing a tight one-piece bathing suit with no shorts or wetsuit pants on the bottom, and you opened your legs. What do you think is going to happen? Nothing good, I can assure you. So yes, there's inherent risks in going down a 214-foot water slide. You paid for the thrill. You have to accept some of the risk.
Well, what are they supposed to put that on the sign? Risk includes injury, flying out of the side of the water slide, as well as a complete douching requiring hysterectomy.
Risks may include fire hose levels of douching. Now, I mean, like, it's just like skiing, right? Like when you take a ski pass, you accept the liability waiver on the back of the ski pass. Like, it's a gigantic frozen rock and you're hurtling your body down it. You might smash into trees or other rocks because it's a mountain. And so I don't want to mock this woman. I'm sure this is a god awful injury. I would not wish this on anybody. But what if
they need the fire hose like amount of force coming out of there?
No, and the problem is that like this almost never happens. When you see, it's really amazing that it doesn't happen more, but it virtually never happens, which is because it's inherently very well designed. That's the point. And so the fact they're only asking for 50 grand,
that's what I was thinking too,
from the mouse tells me they want to settle this and make it go away.
Yeah.
Because if they were really going after, if you're really going after Disney,
I don't think you
You,
win.
you want
I don't-
you want the $100 million.
Yeah, and I heard that
version.
most people don't win anyway when they go after Disney.
Well, I have heard a story, and I believe this, that way back in the day when Walt was still alive and it was Disneyland, that no one sued Disney. And the reason was, if you sued them, they would do whatever they could to destroy the law firm, that like bankrupt them. They would just, because they had endless money. So they would just keep fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting, and not like vindictively go after the law firm, but no law firm would take a case against Disney in Orange County, California, because they didn't have enough money to fight them. Now, the other side of the coin was Disney. If somebody slips and falls at Disney, they would take care of their patrons. They would pay their medical bills. They would treat them very kindly. Now they would cut their balls off, but that's a different story because Disney's gone woke.
They would just send them to the baseball park.
Right,
The
they just send
Seattle
them-
Mariners.
Oh, guess what? We just bought the Mariners. Enjoy not having testicles. But I digress. So they would treat their customers fairly, and then they just made it so that it was so inhospitable that no law firm would take the case. Unlike Walmart,
Ugh.
where everyone slips and falls, and Walmart throws 10 grand around all the time. So then what happens is Walmart gets like buried in $10,000 nuisance go away lawsuits. And so, I mean, it's two different business strategies, but yeah, I mean, I know how I would defend that if I was the corporate attorney. But I mean, look, it's,
If
you know what this
were a
was?
woman, you would be all over it.
This was tough luck. This was a bad set of circumstances. It was tough luck, but tough luck and a bad set of circumstances in something that has some inherent risk does not mean culpability on the purveyor of said water slide. That's what I think.
All right.
So who suffered more, the husband or the wife? Ooh.
If you even have to ask that question, I'm just going to smack you on the face. All right. What are we drinking tonight?
Oh, I don't know.
Well-
I know what it is. It's delicious. It's from Moore Family Vineyards, our friends in Sweet Home, Oregon.
We've already uncorked, so the popping champagne sound will not happen because it freaks me out almost as much as cactuses do.
Pomegranate happiness.
I want to know who else hates the sounds of champagne corks popping. It freaks me out. I cannot watch it.
Well, not F1 drivers, I can assure you.
Yeah, so he opened this already and we are enjoying it. And this is delicious. Pomegranate flavor, courtesy of Moore Family Vineyards. If you live in the Willamette Valley of Oregon, you will be able to visit and taste all their tasty beverages. I'm usually not a champagne drinker, but all of their flavors are delicious.
Well, they have
so
a
many.
peach that's just insane.
Oh, I know. Yes. So it's sparkling grape wine with natural flavor. And they have some amazing reds out that are new for this year. I got to taste them before we left. And you should go visit them. Wonderful people, wonderful wines. So, yeah, see, Jennifer says that she doesn't like the sound of balloons popping. I don't like any of that loud stuff. Our daughter hates the sounds of thunder and lightning. So everybody's got their thing.
She lives in Texas now. She should be used to it. Yes. All right, what's the next story? Let's see what the next story is. Oh, yes. I call this proof that we are living in a simulation. Oregon again says students don't need to prove mastery of reading, writing, or math to graduate, citing harm to students of color. I have no idea how not being able to read, add, subtract, or write would harm.
No, that would help.
Would be how not knowing those things would somehow be better than being held to a high standard and knowing them. This is the definition.
If Oregon students know how to read, write, and do math, then they're harming students of color?
Apparently. So what this smells of is what I think it was George Bush, which is one of the things I did agree with him on, which was the The soft racism of low expectations.
So let's read the caption below, though. It says Oregon high school graduates won't have to prove basic mastery. Read
Reading,
basic,
writing,
read
and
that
math.
part again. Basic mastery of reading, writing, and math until at least 2029, after the State Board of Education voted unanimously to pause the requirement. What kind of idiocracy
It's
is on the State
we're
Board of
living in a
Education?
simulation, and we are living in idiocracy. Like, that's entirely what that is.
That's the
And the fact that they put some racial
there.
bullshit on there just tells you that they're the ones that are racist. Like if so,
Right.
so what they're saying is black kids don't perform as well on these standardized tests as white kids. Therefore, the test is racist. No, therefore, there's brokenness in your society that clearly excludes certain people from reaching the academic accomplishments of other people. Your society is fucked. Deal with that shit. Excuse my French, but seriously, deal with that instead of lowering expectations so everyone's retarded. Oh, I said the R word. No, seriously, it's so completely insane.
It's like I can't even wrap my head around that. We feel so sorry for the people of color, so we're just going to make everybody. Well,
no, if you felt sorry for them, you'd hire tutors so that they could read at the same level as everyone else and have the same chance at employment and going to college and building a business and everything else. Duh. If you actually gave a shit, you would invest in those people's lives instead of lowering the standard. No, seriously, this is what people would do if you hate a subgroup of people that is underperforming. This is what you would do if you hate them. You would lower the standards so that they completely fall out of any employability in your society, and you make them slaves to welfare. That's exactly what happened.
Yep.
That's exactly how this would work.
Mm-hmm.
If you hated people of color, this is exactly what you would do. And you know what? They do.
Yeah.
It's time to pull the frickin' Band-Aid off. They hate people of color, so they lower the standards. And they do it in the name of racial inclusion. No, they're killing these people. It's just like Margaret Sanger, who started Planned Parenthood so she could kill off more black people. They're the same eugenicist pieces of shit from 1900 that wanted a race war. Sorry, if you love everyone, this should blow your head up. Yeah. It's so completely absurd. And people go, why did you leave Oregon? We were asked that today, and I just sit there kind of like,
it's frightening. If you've got
how much time do you have?
If you've got a kid in school, like,
well, no, then you know what you do. If you have a kid in school,
you'd be pulling them out,
and you are $1 above the average income, you homeschool them or you put them in private school, which makes the problem 10 times worse for all the poor kids.
Yeah,
because it's just that's the problem. It's like you're going to protect your kids no matter what. So if you have any means, you pull them out, you put them in private school, or you homeschool them, and it makes it worse. You're pulling resources away from the poorest kids.
And then
that's who you want to help.
They're going to be griping and bitching about, oh, there's such a dichotomy between the wealthy and the not, and there's this bigger gap between education levels. And I'm be like, well, whose fault is that? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, Gary's nailing it. All that money that is going in polarizing the world. And I shouldn't get this angry because I understand that some of this is just manipulation, but this one isn't. This is the Oregonian. This is like the most leftist newspaper in the freaking world. And they're like, well, they're just reporting this. Like, they're not incensed. They're not trying to like bait you into, whatever it is. And I think that there's a tremendous amount of manipulation. I mean, I was watching several conservative news sources tonight, and they're all bringing out the story of these two black kids that drove over the guy that was an ex-police officer in Vegas, and they mowed over him, and they're laughing and they're flipping off the family in court and all that. And you sit there and you go, okay, I get it. Yes, they're depraved, but you know what? There's been depraved people since there's been people. But so I still taste a little bit of manipulation. It's like, you want to make me angry.
Right.
It's hard to ignore the fact that they have tattoos on their face and that they're black kids and it's inner city. And it just kind of feeds the division. It doesn't heal people. Part of me was like, wanted to weep. I'm like, how can you be that broken?
Yeah. Well,
As a kid, like, how can you be that broken as an 18-year-old? I mean, I'm sitting there going, I hope these kids go to jail and become part of a prison ministry and figure their lives out and become like ministers of the gospel that change people. I mean, literally, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, this is really, really sad.
It's very sad. But
it's used to make you angry.
Right. Because I want to know, where are all the positive stories that happen?
They're not on BS Free MD, apparently.
They don't put it on TV, on the news either. I talk about this a lot back in the day when we were younger, and we would watch the Canadian national news when it wasn't owned by the government too, and how they would talk about local stories, national stories, international stuff, but there was always something positive on there, usually to end the night, which made you'd hear all the crap, but at least it was, there's still some good going on in the world. And I don't know, you just don't see that.
Well, there's lots of good. And honestly, like, if you look at
news.
Yeah, but it's back to the whole what sells. And what sells is if it bleeds, it leads, right? And so if you keep people pissed off and scared, you're going to sell stuff, right? And you're going to sell.
I turn it off.
And I've just started.
Turn the dial.
I have just started really being cognizant of the fact that, regardless of what tribe you're in, politically or whatever, there's a lot of it's just manipulation, and whether it's right-wing news, left-wing news, whatever, if they can keep you divided, they can conquer you, and that's really the key. And that's not winning. Isn't the goal? Politically, really, it's not winning. It's making the country better. It's loving people. It's uniting.
Absolutely.
It's living your dreams. It's being able to be free. It's not winning a political argument, and it's not winning an election. And it's really hard for, like, you have to see the psyop to understand that that's the case, because otherwise it's the Yankees and the Red Sox, and you can be from Boston and hate the Yankees, but if they trade their best player to the Red Sox, all of a sudden you love this guy you hated. It's irrational.
Exactly. It's both sides.
And when it's just R&D, it's just mostly irrational.
Yeah. All right. What else you got for us? Take a breather, and
I don't need a breather. Oh, I found a place. Where I have a chance of getting into the Hall of Fame. I was out for a run in Arcadia, California, just before we went to the rock show, and I found this bar, and I was like, this person deserves a prize. Miss Holly's Bar, Drinkers Hall of Fame. Like, how brilliant is that? Cocktails, pool, and shuffleboard. What could possibly go wrong?
And look at the hours. They're pretty much only closed
6 a.m.
4 hours of
to
the
2
day.
Yes, we spend 4 hours mopping up the vomit, and then we open right back up at 6 a.m. So you can saddle up to the bar and order a drink and make the shaking stop.
Good grief.
See, I could advertise for them.
You could.
They should be sponsors of us.
Drinkers Hall of Fame.
Drinkers Hall of Fame. I saw that. I was like, you can't be serious.
Wow. Interesting.
And then I have one more picture, which is May and the sun.
Oh, look at that. Well, that picture of me and the sun is not here. It was from a trip, and that was Puerto Rico. But that brings...
Puerto Rico.
That is close to here, much closer than Oregon. And so that was the Truth Serum newsletter of the week. If you haven't signed up for that, you should, because, you'll get such insightful writings from myself and sometimes Tim. and what we're thinking about. But I was sharing about how I noticed already, it really has hit both of us, how the sun is so impactful in your biorhythm, your mood, your energy, attitude. And as Tim, I love it because he coined the phrase that we are solar powered, but it's true. And I started listening, and I'm not done, to the podcast with Andrew Huberman and help me out here.
Jack Cruz.
That's right, Jack Cruz. It is very intense, and I link those in the show notes. You have to, if you don't have a science background, you're going to have to listen to it a few times or get an interpreter. It's pretty in depth.
Or go to college.
But let me just say, what my point being is that, I've always been attracted and loved sunlight. I mean, most people do, but there's a few people that I know that love rainy weather. They like the dark, cloudy, cozy up thing. For us, after 20
they also sleep in coffins and
Yes,
are never seen during daylight.
That's what I said.
And really are attracted to people's necks. Other than that, great folks.
Yeah, they seem to like fall and pumpkin spice lattes. Halloween
They only
costumes.
drink them with one tooth.
Anyway, what a difference we've noticed in the time that we're here. And I'm like, it just feels like we are living, well, it feels like we're on vacation still, but the sun has really already made a prominent impact on how we feel. That we notice the neighbors out smiling and walking. Everybody's happy. No, they're not all retired and living their best life. But I would say that the other thing I notice is...
Yeah, but most of them are. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
it's the 25th of October. It's 85 degrees. It's sunny, and I have no job and a giant pile of cash in the bank. What's there not to smile about?
That's right.
Oh, I shot 85 instead of 83 at the golf course.
Exactly. But I'm noticing that just how getting up in the morning, because I'm not usually a morning person, soaking up some sun rays directly in my eyeballs like you're supposed to do, and get your retinas firing and get your true spectrum of light, red light, all the colors of the rainbow that you need, is amazing. And how energized I feel, and how when the time that the sun goes down, I'm feeling tired and I'm wanting to go to bed, and I'm also getting my biorhythms in tune, so to speak. But I just feel so much better and so much happier. And, we talked about grounding previously, but the power of the sun, and there's so much more. I'm going to read a book all about the power of light therapy too, just to get some more detail about how.
Well, if it's a good book, we'll reach out to the author, because I think that's part. But it's interesting. Like the Jack Cruz stuff. Jack Cruz is a neurosurgeon, and he still practices neurosurgery, but he got into basically what's called quantum biology. So he's like, what's at the very quantum subatomic level of biology? And it was, I need to listen to it again. It's about 6 hours, these 2 episodes. It is really wild stuff. Mm-hmm. And basically he's like, it's light, magnetism, water, and salt. That's it. And so frequencies of light are super duper powerful for how any mammal exists. Electricity and magnetism. So grounding is super important. Magnetic fields are super important. And then you have to have water. It's all water. And then, electrolytes are essentially the ability to conduct electricity through a living, animal. And it really, I listen to hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of podcasts a year. And so far this year, I have not listened to anything that has really kind of uncorked my head more than this. Like even all the UFO stuff I've listened to and all the really crazy stuff, because it was really like, okay, what is at the very basis of what makes us work? And light and light frequency is super, super important. We don't think of it. And we live in kind of a world of light pollution where We come home, we turn on the TV, we get blasted with blue light. We have a phone 2 millimeters from our eyes, and then we wonder why we can't sleep. And it was
well, in the last 20 years, think about it, how things have changed. Think back to before we had computers, cell phones, iPads, tablets, LEDs didn't exist. I don't know. I think that we've kind of forgotten even how different we felt back then. But man, in the last 20 years, just been so soul sucking. So I'm really noticing, just even, obviously we haven't ditched all our electronics, but just being in the light like all day. And even though I'm in my house and the sun's not beaming through because I have a lot less windows than I used to, it is so more potent and powerful when you get out in that sunlight. And it's hard when you don't have it. And that's why I've been a big advocate over the years to have my Verilux light. I had my office, I had it in my home. It made a big difference. I could feel it. So anyway, that's just my sort of thoughts for the week. Check out our newsletter. And
but the stuff that'll really kind of alter your perception. And I've heard this for years and I never agreed with it. I started hearing it about 10 years ago and I was like, yeah, these guys are nuts. Is don't use sunscreens and don't wear sunglasses. Mm-hmm. Now, there's obviously very clear damage that's going to happen. You're going to photo age faster with no sunscreen and you're going to get cataracts faster. But when it comes to the entire scope of well-being, as far as energy and mood and weight loss and all of these things, like Paul Salandino, who's one of the, he's not really a carnivore anymore, but he's a animal-based diet guy. He's like, spray on sunscreen should be illegal. He's like, it's worse than smoking.
And most of the chemicals in there are horrific anyway. But I've been doing this before we even moved here, is wearing my sunglasses less and actually letting the light hit my eyes. And I would notice a huge difference. I mean, even this summer I did it in Oregon and I'm like, wow, I feel more alive and rejuvenated. Obviously, you can't do that continuous. Well, you could, but cataracts, no thanks. Well, they're coming anyway.
Well, that's exactly the point. Is you're going to get them anyways, and the technology's so good to treat them. It's like, who cares?
But try going out without your sunglasses for a while and see how different you feel when you actually let the sun come into your eyes.
What Jack Cruz says is sit like the Sphinx and eat like a shark. So the Sphinx in Egypt sits to the east, staring straight at the sun as it rises. And the frequency of the sunlight as it rises and is early in the day is the most powerful sort of rejuvenator, according to his quantum theories. And then eat like a shark, which is basically tons of protein. And I mean, the guy was 357 pounds and doing neurosurgery, which would just destroy your back. And he lost like, I don't know, 150 pounds or something like that, just by figuring all this stuff out. I don't know how much of it's absolutely real. I don't know how much of it is pure science, but it's super fascinating. And he's had some amazing successes by taking his theories and just practicing them, which is what doctors used to do. Observe things, figure them out, and then just do it.
Imagine that. Yes. So, do the best you can. If you can soak up some sunlight with your eyes, obviously some people, as they're commenting on here, can't, just various conditions, whether it's eye drops or.
And where we're living now, you if it's bright sunlight, you can't drive anywhere without sunglasses because the pavement has so much quartz in it. It's just like, it's almost white.
First world Florida problems.
Yes, I know.
I think you should just not tell them about that because you're going to make people angry or jealous. All right. Well, I have a little news update. So we've been, as you know, if you were watching last week or listening, we did a contest where
May doesn't like it when I tap on the bottom of the microphone. She thinks that you can hear it. And then she grabs my hands.
All right. So we had a contest as we drove across America with all kinds of questions and points, and we announced the grand prize winner last week, who will be receiving prizes soon coming.
A studio filled with glamorous prizes.
But we had so many people enter that and that were in second place. I thought we had to have a second place winner. to honor all the people participating. But we had 6 people tied for second place. So I had a tie-breaking question, and all the answers are in. And the tie-breaking question basically was, here, I'll read it. So we asked everybody, how many gallons of gas did the U-Haul consume on the entire trip from Oregon to Florida? And the winner was whoever was the closest guess without going over Price is Right style. So if you got close to the correct answer, but you were over, sorry, you can't win. And we had, so we had guesses anywhere from, it was like 280 all the way up to 480, 490 gallons of gas. And the actual amount was 458 gallons of gas from Sweet Home to Bradenton. So the winner of the second prize is Karen Gascoigne. I hope I said your last name right. She is actually a super fan. She writes all the time on Instagram. So Karen, congratulations. You won because let me think what actually I'll tell you what her guess was. I have it here. For the people that want to know, she guessed actually 318. Someone else was really close, but they went over. So I am so sorry. Karen wins. All right. So
yes,
I need to get.
And I filled every one of those 400 and whatever it was,
you did.
78 gallons.
Your favorite stop was Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's.
Of course. So what I'm going to do is we will be actually mailing out merch to Karen and our other grand prize winner from last week, who got the most points for all the questions.
So we're working diligently on some Yeti mugs. And
as well as some very nice snapback BS Free MD
Doctales.
Ball caps.
Yes, with cork. So they look like a gigantic wine cork.
So your
because
head
everyone's head needs to look like a gigantic wine cork.
Yeah, we have some beer koozies coming, or drink koozies if you want to keep it
LaCroix.
Alcohol free, whatever you want to put in
And
there.
then with this lighting, look at that.
You can harness a lot of sunlight in between
like
those crevices that are
crevasses. Look at that.
Almost as much as the wrinkly brain matter you have underneath that.
It's going to be time for a facelift pretty soon, right? Just get everything.
I'm sure that people are loving that look.
Look at that. Okay, who am I? I'm Nancy Pelosi. All I need is the boob job.
Oh my gosh, you're cut off. You were cut off. All right, let's tell everybody what's on the show this week and end this. So we have a truth bomb that came out today. Tim called it Saviors, and it's his little rant on what savior you need or don't need. And check that one out. Tomorrow on the show, our guest is Dan, and I'm going to butcher his name.
Banano.
Banano. There we go. You got it right. That's exactly right. Dan Banano. And he is a Connecticut-based clinical psychologist and is actually an expert and has an interesting take on how to treat PTSD. He believes that a lot of people are hyper-adrenalized, and he focuses and does a lot of training with not just veterans of war, but anybody that's been through PTSD.
David, not Dan.
Oh,
David.
I'm sorry.
Banano.
Thanks for correcting me, Desiree. Dr. David Banano. Yes. So that's a really interesting episode. If you know of anybody that has really severe PTSD, he talks a lot about his approach to treating it and how he believes that medications and conventional psychotherapy and psychiatry really just have no idea how to approach it. He is also a PTSD survivor himself, so he really can relate to his clients. That was a really interesting episode, and we hope you like it. Other than that, anything else you want to add?
Well, it will probably not be helpful.
All right. Well, if you guys are enjoying this BS Free MD episode of Doctales with Cocktails. Please share or tell a friend who might want to watch live or listen to the replay on Mondays. Otherwise, check out our show on any platforms from Apple to Spotify or your favorite podcast platforms. We are there, and we do have a sign up on our website for Truth Serum newsletter that comes out weekly with my stellar writings and fun photos.
Please share those with your friends. We need more people reading those. They really are good. I've wrote a couple, and I wrote one that I was actually really proud of. The other, I'm not usually the writer, but every once in a while.
You're a great philosopher. You just need a little grammatical correction.
Right.
But that's my forte.
Well, it's like the Derek Zoolander school for kids that don't read good.
Well, if you stay in Oregon, you too can be Derek Zoolander.
That's exactly right.
Alrighty, well.
You still need to know math to cut down trees.
Yeah. And how to read the directions on the chainsaw. Anyway.
Just don't start me on that one again. That was
horrible.
That's just seriously. It's the Matrix.
Pretty much.
Take the red pill, please.
Well, special shout out tonight to our super fans on here, Gary and Lariat, Patty and Heather, as well as Candace for commenting in the gallery and keeping us entertained as well. We appreciate our fans on the live stream just as much as anywhere else. So thanks to you guys. Have a good week, and we will see you next time. Now, a final word from our sponsor. At Pearson Ravitz, they understand that life can change in an instant. It's hard to imagine that a sudden illness, injury, or catastrophic event could put you and your family in a devastating financial situation. Physician-founded and physician-focused, Pearson Ravitz builds human connections before they create quotes. Visit www.pearsonravitz.com today and embark on a journey of safeguarding your future.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit, uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD, to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
But we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible. We can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.